Hey guys, Michael here from michaelsherlock.com. I want to talk to you today about an event that Nokia had in Singapore, Nokia Connection. They were touting this as an event that would not only show off the new ecosystem, the future of Nokia as a hardware and software manufacturer, smartphone company if you will, as well as a new device. So let's get started with the headline product that came out of this, the N9. A lot of rumors came into what the N9 would be. People were saying, oh, it could be Anna Symbian, it could be MeeGo. A lot of people were hoping it was Windows Phone 7. It actually is a MeeGo 1.7 device with a Nokia Harmattan skin on it. I think I butchered that pronunciation. But it's 116 by 61 by 7.6 millimeters at 135 grams. It's basically a candy bar design. There were a lot of rumors and speculation the last year about the N9, about it having a full hardware keyboard, but it doesn't. It's powered by a 1 GHz ARM Cortex processor. This is a single-core CPU, and although 1 GHz single-core CPUs are kind of 2010, performance was actually really good on this device when I saw demos of it, mostly because MeeGo is a very efficient operating system. This device also has 1 GB of RAM, 16 or 64 GB of internal storage, and pentaband HSPA+, which means in Europe it'll work, in the United States it'll work on AT&T, and it'll also work on T-Mobile's 3G bands, although I believe the download speeds are limited to 14.4 megabits per second. This device has a 3.9-inch WVGA AMOLED display, and that's actually made out of Gorilla Glass, which means that this device will be very hard to break and will be very durable, which is something that we've seen a lot of with Nokia, and it's something that I really like about the hardware. Not only will it feel sturdy, but you can trust it if you drop it that it's not going to break. Has an 8 megapixel Carl Zeiss wide-angle lens, and that's autofocus, not extended depth of field, which is really good. That'll capture 720p video, and it also has near-field communication support, which actually will tie into some of the accessories we talk about later. Now let's talk about this MeeGo operating system for a second. Basically how it works is there are 3 home screens. There's a home screen for notifications, there's a home screen for all applications, and there's a home screen for multitasking. The way you get between them is you just swipe. If you're on one of the home screens, you can just flick. But if you're inside an application, you put your finger on one side of the device, you can either slide right to left to right, up down, or down up, and that'll bring you back to your home screen. So let's say you're in the browser, swipe, you're back to the home screen that you were previously at. So if you were previously at your multitasking view, which shows you all your open applications, it'll bring you there. And then from there you can swipe back, and if you go to your notifications, notifications are a combination of Facebook, Twitter, and RSS feeds, and those will all be integrated seamlessly, but it'll also prioritize more important notifications they deem more important, which would be SMS, missed calls, voicemails, etc., which is actually really cool. Again, I mentioned this before, it's only a 1 GHz CPU, but everything worked really efficiently and just snapped with all the demos that I've seen thus far. Now this device will launch in black, magenta, and cyan, but it'll be plastic, although Nokia keeps calling it polycarbonate because that sounds so much cooler than plastic. But one of the cool things is, when devices chip, usually it's just the top layer that's painted, and then when it chips you can see the disgusting color underneath. This plastic is actually colored all the way through in either that black, magenta, or cyan, so if you chip, it's not going to be able to, you're not really going to notice it, which is actually kind of a nice touch if it's going to break. So again, going back to that durability factor, we don't really have information on pricing or availability, although it'll launch later this year. It will be a 2011 launch, and the United States is most likely not a launch country. This is kind of a problem for me. I know Windows Phone 7 is the short-term future, Windows Phone 7 is the short-term future for Nokia phones. It's kind of a stopgap solution to try to bring them back to relevancy, but if the short-term future is Windows Phone 7, that's really what we're expecting a lot of Nokia handsets to have in 2012 and 2013, etc. What's really the app support? What's the developer's incentive to work on MeeGo? Basically, this is the only phone so far that Nokia has that supports MeeGo, so I don't really know, exactly how many devs you're going to get. And of course, in the words of Steve Ballmer, developers. If we don't have devs working on this and getting new apps out, it's kind of going to be a failed launch, if you will. And also, besides just the fact that this is MeeGo, even if this was Windows Phone 7, one device isn't enough to save Nokia. Sadly, they're not Apple. They can't release one piece of hardware per year and have that dominate the market. Nokia is bleeding. They were a couple years ago they were so big in smartphones, and now they've been dropping significantly because they weren't quick enough to adopt after, iOS and Android came out and sort of changed the market. So one device is not enough to save Nokia, especially because the N9 isn't even launching today. Again, we don't know when the launch will be. We're not sure launch countries. The United States probably won't be a launch country. And I understand that the markets in Europe and India and China and the Asian countries as well is huge. I get that. But the North American market is really big. That's one of the places where you've been completely destroyed of late. So I don't understand why the United States wouldn't be a prominent launch partner or launch region, and I don't understand why they can't be pushing this device out more quickly. So there's my little rant on the N9. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments section below if you have any. But let's move on. There were actually a couple other things that happened at Nokia Connections. They announced that Symbian Anna will be released for the N8, the E7, the C7, and the C601. Devices will be shipping in July preloaded with that software, and if you currently have an N8, for example, or any of the devices I just mentioned, software update is coming in August. Again, that's a pretty slow software cycle. The N8 is 11 months old, and this is the first significant software bump, and it's just way too long. That's one of the reasons why Nokia has become stagnant and is bleeding, is because it takes them way too long to update software, to update products. You have a huge smartphone portfolio, and it takes you this long to update, especially with Symbian. That's a problem. But in case you don't really know what the Anna update is about, new icons, faster web browser, improved text input, as well as enhanced maps. And actually, even though they've said that right now Symbian is dead, and that they're not going to be supporting, they'll be supporting Symbian through 2016, but the future is Windows Phone 7 and I think MeeGo, but that's a different story. They still said that there will be at least 10 new Symbian devices in the next 12 months, which is pretty interesting. They also said there will be at least one MeeGo Windows Phone Nokia product launching in 2011 with mass production occurring in 2012, in the beginning of 2012. Again, the United States doesn't seem like it's a launch region, which again is a problem, as I mentioned, because that's a region you really need to capitalize on if you really want to play a significant role in the smartphone market. Now, there were 3 Series 40 phones that were announced. They're not really breathtaking in my opinion, but there's definitely a niche for them and a lot of people would be interested in them. You have the C203, which is a dual SIM. It's hot swappable and will actually support up to remembering 5 SIM cards. So if you have up to 5, it'll remember. And basically you just hot swap them in. You don't have to take the battery out, power down, any of that. You put it in, you set it up the way you want it, you set up your settings, etc., and the phone will remember it for you. Now, this phone does have a hardware portrait keyboard, and it also has a touchscreen, which is pretty cool. It weighs 118 grams, has a 2 megapixel camera, and has a 240 by 320 display. So this is a feature phone, of course, but it actually does have a significant feature set for whatever the pricing will be. With, again, dual SIMs is a feature that that is actually really cool in Europe and India, where you travel between countries and regions, and there are different cell phone providers or service providers, and it's just really easy to have dual SIM. They also announced the C202, which is the same as the other one, but it's a single SIM option instead of a dual SIM option. And there's also the C206. Great product names, by the way. Who wouldn't want to buy the C206? It's a perfect name. But anyway, the C206 is essentially the same as well, but it'll come in several different colors. Now, just as a note, Nokia Maps for Series 40 is shipping with these devices, as well as a browser for Series 40 from Nokia. The cool thing about Nokia Maps is it's a free service, and maps and locations are actually stored on the device, so you don't have to use data, and you can use the phone in offline mode if you would like, and the maps will still load, and you can still get directions wherever you are, as long as you can connect to the GPS, which is, of course, free as well, so pretty cool feature. The last thing I just want to gloss over real quick is just some accessories that they announced. You have the BH111 Bluetooth stereo headset, which is pretty interesting. It's a earbud system, pretty cool, wireless if you would like. Nokia Play 360, which is an omnidirectional Bluetooth and NFC speaker. So the way they demoed it is, you take the N9, you just tap it on there, and the NFC will activate the Bluetooth pairing. It'll play through there, and then if you're done, you just tap again, and then it'll disconnect and it'll continue playing through the speakers on your phone, which is pretty cool. There's also the MD310, which is a music receiver that promises perfect CD quality playback. And again, you can get that performance via that Bluetooth NFC combo that I was just explaining, or a 3.5mm headphone jack if you prefer to go that route for battery life, etc. So there's Nokia Connections recap. I'm actually really excited about the N9. I really think that Windows Phone 7 is a stopgap solution to sort of save the bleeding of Nokia, and I think that perhaps in the future Symbian can come back as a platform, but I really think at this point MeeGo is their best solution. But again, you have to get developers on board, especially if you're saying that for the next couple years you're going to sort of focus on Windows Phone 7 and put MeeGo on the back burner. One device with MeeGo is not going to get developers really excited for this device. So even though I really want to get my hands on it and see how efficient MeeGo 1.2 is, I'm not sure the commercial success of the N9 outside of Nokia fanboys, simply because of probably the lack of developer support, as well as the fact that this operating system isn't really going to be on the forefront for at least a couple more years. So I'm Michael Sherlock from michaelsherlock.com. I'd really love to hear your feedback about Nokia Connections in the comments section below. Is Nokia still relevant where you are? Are you excited for the N9? Do you think one flagship product can save them, or do you think you're going to need a solid portfolio of MeeGo and Windows Phone 7 Mango devices in the coming years to really bring them back to preeminence? I'd love to read your comments. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a nice day.